All right. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having a wonderful, blessed, and productive day today. A little bit on the gloomier side where I am, but every day is a blessing. So, yeah, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are, you know, thanks for coming on and being able to talk to me for a little bit. But, yeah, so without further ado, we're just gonna jump right into it. So, topic of today is bad parenting. Yeah, bad parenting. Here's the most important thing you need to know, and every parent in the world at some point feels like a bad parent. It's completely normal, you know. No one can be perfect 24/7. And no matter how much we try, you know, our best, our children, you know, and things like that, children will always, find a way to criticize when they grow up. Basically, everything that you do. But sometimes everything feels overwhelming. Daily tasks slip through your fingers, and communication with your child seems to fall apart, you know. And if you're a young and unexperienced parent, the doubt can be even stronger. What can people do in moments like this? Well, sometimes you got to remind yourself why this isn't true. Now, our brains tend to focus on the failures while ignoring the success, you know? And a lot of times it's one of those things where, you know, you remember the little things in your life that you tried to focus on, but the big things seem to be in a distance. Most when it comes to the challenges and everything that you have in your life, it's so much to just think about negative things, but just throw away the positives. You know, our brains are such an amazing thing, man. We seem to remember what we've done and what we try to do, but we never seem to understand why we're doing them in the first place. Most of our minds are wired to where we barely remember the good things we do, but we never forget the bad things we've done or what's been done to us. So being able to see the challenges and seeing the negative thoughts, remember the times that what you had when you had to drive across the city, you know, and have to give your child the medicine that she needed or he needed, you know, or when you made them the most awesome costume for a school party, or when you were watching cartoons together at Christmases, eating popcorn and laughing. You've done more than you had, and you give yourself little to no credit, but you should give yourself credit for all those things. You know, lower your expectations and stop always putting unnecessary pressure where there's always someone telling you that you're not enough. But even as a parent, especially a single parent, that's the last thing you want to be able to hear. But it's always a bitter sweet moment because it's in a way that you can focus on yourself and also being the best that you can for the person, the little person that you were able to bring into this life, you know? And it's hard for all parents, whether they're in a two parent household or you're just a single parent working on your own. All you have to do is say, I am, I am, and I always will be enough. You know, I'll never take that away from myself because I tried my absolute hardest to give my little child a good childhood and a way better life than I had, you know, and things like that. Always think of that mindset. Put it out in the universe and then do your best to try hard every single day to work on that goal of giving your child the best life you know how, while also working on yourself in the process. Because you need to focus on yourself and be okay bettering yourself so that you'll be able to provide and take care of your little one or little ones if you have multiple children. You know, find ways to connect with your child. You know, maybe your old methods of communication no longer work, but your child is growing and changing, you know, so relationships, they'll evolve at every stage, you know, in a kid's life. And as a parent, you have to build those. You have to build those bridges again and again. You know, trying something new, letting your child choose a weekend activity, you know, pick pick the movie for family night. You know, we used to do that all the time when we were kids. You know, me and my little sister, we always had time. They always had time to give us like movie nights and keep our bonds close. And I'm thankful for those times because those precious memories. I still remember those wonderful movies that we always watched together, and it was just a wonderful, sweet moment that is one of the best parts of my childhood. Being able to spend time with family and watch the movies, you know, being able to grow up and still remember those movies because of what we were doing in the process as far as my family, being able to come together, laugh at the movie, know, all those wonderful things, never take for granted, you know, and it's like decide what's for dinner, play a board game together or start a new hobby, you both can learn and just keep on growing and going from there, you know. Also, I feel like just being able to follow your parenting principles, even the way you grow up, you know, your parents are the ones that's going to be telling you everything you need to know. And they're going to be like, well, this is what I had to deal with when you were a child. Now that you're a parent, you're seeing what your parents went through with you. So, what better advice to be given than from your parent bringing it down to you? And now, all of a sudden, because you're a parent, you're like, I get it now. I get it now. Now I see. Now I see. Now I see why parents did such and such to get me ready for it. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they that's how they look at it now. That's how they see it. That's how they're gonna picture. That's how they're gonna use their mindset. They're gonna think about their childhood. Sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So everything that you did as a kid is called the circle of life for a reason. What you did as a kid, you're gonna have to hopefully try your best to prevent, kids growing up and making those same mistakes that you did as a kid, and you know, try to fill those try to fill those spots because it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult, you know. But all you gotta do is, be consistent, predictable. Your child should feel safe and secure at your home. Find common ground and share interest. You know, spend at least 2 hours a week focusing on, you know, your child. Adapt to your child's unique traits, whether they are like hyperactive, introverted, or, something in between. Show empathy, not just to your child, but to yourself as well. Also, give yourself grace because it's one of the most difficult things a person has to deal with, taking care of another human being, you know? So, all you gotta do is just remember that there's always gonna be someone there to help, and the famous way they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So, it's not just you, it's not just your significant other raising your child, but it's the people that's around them, grandmas, grandpa, aunts, uncles, you know, people outside of your extended family, like, neighbors, friends, friends, parents, so much that you just gotta take a look at the people that um, your child's around, and if you feel that they're a good influence on your child, then keep those people around. But you can tell, you can have that parent instinct that I don't think this person is good enough to be with my child, and get that person out of there. Don't worry about that situation, and just keep on doing the best that you can to bring your kid up around good people. Good people that will help you raise the child, and also you raise the child in the way that you want them to be raised. And then as you consider, after you've done your job, you just hope and pray that that person will go out in the real world and grow, evolve, and that you've taught them and taught them well, to where they're able and capable of learning what you taught them and raise them to be the best version of themselves from what you've done with them. And now they can take your teachings and what you taught them and bring it out into the world. That's the hope. Sometimes it could be a whole different situation with things, but we're just talking about one specific thing right now, and that's how you can not think about being a bad parent, but evolving and knowing that you've done everything possible to help your kid grow in this world, so that when you become old and gray and those kids are able to bless you with grandkids, hopefully that you're still around to be able to teach them some of the things and things like that. And it's the circle of life. It's the circle of life now. So you just hope that, you know, and things not always going to be perfect. There's always different scenarios and pros and cons and everything that you see and think and all that. We can literally have a 6 hour, maybe 7 hour conversation of all the different pros and cons and scenarios that can come with raising or involving children and stuff like that. But we're just focusing on one thing, and that's being able to raise your child and you know being the person that you are, focusing on yourself, and then doing what you can to bring up your child and have them grow, evolve, and being the best versions of themselves because you've raised them and taught them the things that they need to survive in this world, you know? So, yeah, I always I always say if I'm blessed enough to have kids of my own, I just hope and pray that they have a wonderful, you know, better life than, I had. My life was very, 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 very great. Um, my childhood was great. My mom and dad did the best that they could, to give me a great childhood. I'm very thankful in everything. Sometimes when you do things as a teenager, it'll, you know, stick with you into adulthood. And it just gives you a better meaning of life and how hard it is, things you have to go through, and the decisions that you've made. You just gotta take it with a grain of salt. Being able to focus on the good things that you're able to take out of those situations that you've done and are doing. It's gonna be one of those long roads, but at the end of the day, you know the person that you are and you know the person that you want to be. So anything that you're doing and that you continue to do, all you got to do is just focus on that big picture and focus on bettering yourself and getting to where you need to go and trying your best to reach that destination and seeing the big things over the horizon instead of just staying in one place and feeling miserable about yourself and basically just giving up, just not moving at all. Just got to keep on moving. And as you continue to take it one day at a time, timing is the best healer mentally and physically. So all you got to keep on doing is keep on sharpening your mind, your body, and your spirit, because those are the three things that's going to get you through life. And it's going to be a difficult journey. It always is. It's not going to be easy. But just remember, everything that's you feel is bad in the world, there's also little tiny good things that you can focus on so that you can continue to go through life with a smile on your face. So all I want is, if I'm able to be blessed enough to have kids of my own, I want them to be able to live their life to the fullest, be independent. You know, definitely don't want them to go through what I went through. It'll be kind of devastating for me if they did. So, because I definitely don't want to, you know, bring life into the world where it's a struggle, but we can't help what the future holds. All we can do is support, love, and be there for them. But I would definitely teach them to, keep on doing the best that they can. Watch out for things that can change your life, you know, like as far as, being able to deal with situations where you can't come back from. Listen, learn, and as I continue to talk about my story, it'll teach them, and hopefully they'll learn to never do the mistakes that I've done, because I want them to grow up with the best opportunities that they can so that they'll be able to succeed and flourish in this world. That's my goal if I'm ever blessed enough to have children. That's my goal. That's what I look for. That's what I pray for. And that's what I'm going to keep praying for. You know, as of right now, to that wonderful moment, I just keep on praying for my future. I keep on praying for my family. And I keep on praying for everything else that comes with it. Pray that I'm financially stable. Pray that my family is good to go, and there are no hurt, harm, or danger, having no weapon formed against them to prosper. And hopefully anything that will come against them shall be struck down and fall. So that is my prayer. That's what I pray for. That's what I really keep on praying for, because I really want that to, be my number one thing that God will bless me with as far as my future is concerned. So